Alright, welcome back to part 2 of our weapons tutorial. In the last little bit you guys just saw, we had just finished setting up our burst and our spread logic, which we'll go over in just a minute again, but let's go ahead and see the results of what we just coded. So we're here, game started up. Alright, now if our memory recalls right, our primary fire was burst, so if I click once, we get a bam, and every half second we get a shot, and we did it up to 3, so that is correct. And the secondary fire should be a spread weapon, and all that's going to do is pseudo parallel create 8 projectiles when I right click. So when I do that, bam, and that spread worked actually kind of nice. It looks like a shotgun blast. Kind of one sides every now and then, but that's alright. But as you can see, the for loop works really nice and making that appear like a shotgun blast, even though it's really not. One's a little bit newer than the other one. It's so fast you probably, even if you had like a slow facing view of this, it wouldn't really make a difference to you. They'd be so close in time. That's pretty cool, right? So we right click, we get 3 shots right after each other without me having to click again. We right click and we get our spread. That is pretty sweet. And for those of you just tuning in, just in case you didn't remember, we made the store and the collision on it's not quite what it should be. So you can just kind of jump right through it. But no worries. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into something even newer. Let's make a sniper rifle, because everyone loves a sniper rifle. Let's take this, and actually if memory serves right, I don't even have to mess with that. Let's go ahead and make that 0.1. Even better, 0.2. We'll make it fairly fast. We'll make it a 4-round burst. And to make a sniper rifle in the Unreal system, or the UDK system, it's actually very, dirt stupid easy. You go down and you'll see where I define the sniping properties, and you'll see the zooming, or the modes here. The zoomed mode for 0 and 1, and you'll see in the comments, if it is a zooming mode, it will be 1. If not, it is 0. So all we're going to do is define B zoomed fire mode at index 1 is equal to 1. And what this is going to do is when I do the alt fire now, it's going to zoom me in and zoom me out. Now to determine how far you go in, you'll set the zoom target field of view. I've defined it as 16. That's pretty good. It's not super far, but it's about mid-range, so it's not bad. And then the zoomed rate is 0. Pretty much what this is, if you played some games, when you zoom and hold it down, it'll keep zooming you in. I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's a pain in the butt, and it just gives the user too much control over something that they really shouldn't have. It should either be increments instead of like an actual zoom, because it's at least to me not really realistic. So I'm going to leave that. Now let's go ahead and see what this does. Yep, sorry, we want you. Go and start it up. Actually, make sure I saved that. I did. And let's take a look here. And it compiled just right. So now we're just going to wait to see what happens. In the meantime, just a couple updates for those of you that are keeping track of Triangulation. Our first game, it's kind of our educational curve. We're getting near beta. We actually might be in beta at the end of this weekend. Just a little heads up for you guys that are keeping up with it. So we've done a lot of fun stuff with that, and actually, ironically, our sniper rifle was giving us some replication issues, and I had to solve that earlier last week. Through the week, it was a pain in the butt. But I did, so that's good. Alright. So we do a primary fire. It shoots a little bit faster now, and if we that's right, I put 4, didn't I? And if we right click, we zoom in, click again and zoom out, and we can now shoot inward. That's pretty sweet. But I mean, that's really as simple as it is to make a sniper rifle in this game. You right click out. Now, if you want to do a little more advanced sniping stuff, well, I guess I shouldn't call it advanced, a different way of sniping. We have a few things that we can do. Let's say, for instance, that we don't want to use this guy here. We don't want to use the B zoomed fire mode. So we define that as 0 again. Now we're not going to zoom in. Let's do something else. Let's take, actually I put it down here last time so we could see what we got. Let's use this function get zoom state. And we're going to say if get zoom state is equal to, and actually I put the stuff down here as well, is equal to zoomed, so we're zoomed in, then we're going to fire. Then we'll do our spread. That'll be the determining factor for that. Else, we're not in zoom, so we're going to start zoom. And that function is defined in UT_weapon, and actually in here as well. We're also going to have to do a in zoom to get out of zoom. So what I've done here is I've emulated what that B zoomed fire mode did. If we're in zoom state, you know, if it's zoomed, then we're going to fire and kick ourselves out of zoom. If we're not in zoom, and it's the current fire mode is equal to 1, we're going to start zooming. Simple as that. Let's go ahead and make sure that this compiles right. I probably messed up those function names. Nope, I did. Let's take a look here. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. These two functions actually require a parameter. And this is kind of a dirty way of doing it, but sue me. And it should be instigator.controller. And I know this is kind of new to you guys since we haven't done much Unreal script, but what this is doing is the instigator is actually a pawn. It's the pawn that owns this weapon. And the controller is the player controller that we defined a while ago, which extended UT player controller. And then from there, actually, I better double check on that, to be honest. Let's go ahead and pull that up real quick just to make sure we got it right. I'd rather make sure and not have to come back, you know? Generic shooter, classes, the player controller, edit. We did it. Excellent. We extended UT player controller as I thought we did. So good. We can actually do this cast and make sure it's right. Now what this is this is what we call casting. You do the class you want to become, and then in parentheses you put in what you're trying to convert. So it's basically saying convert instigator.controller to a UT player controller. And if we go back, everything compiled successfully, just as I had thought. Alright. So let's see what we got going on once this thing loads up. Now, what this should do is, as I said, when we click on it the first time, it should kick us into zoom. When we click again, it should fire and then kick us out of zoom. Alright, let's take a look. Game mode, our generic shooter, make sure we got hallway. Start that sucker up. Alright, so we can primary fire and it'll do our burst. 4, alright. We can right click, it'll put us into zoom. We can right click again, it kicks us out and gives us our burst, or our spread that is. It's pretty sweet, right? Now, I've actually, the sniper rifle we use in triangulation, for those of you that have not played it, we do something similar to this. We actually have like a TF2 style sniper. When you go into zoom, you'll see under the cursor a percentage lining up, and that's the percentage of damage you'll do for the shot. And what that does is over time it allows, it's kind of a catch-22 to the sniper. It allows you to have a good deal of power at a distance, but it makes you stand still to make sure you can charge up that power. Another thing that we added in it is when you click and fire, it actually has a delay on when you're zooming out, which if we go back, that's easily done by simply going back into our code and let's see how we set a timer here for a function, and we gave it an interval, whether it's repeating, and the function itself has a name. What we're doing is we could copy this, put it where end zoom is, and define a function zoom out delay, for instance. You know, so we could do something like simulated function zoom out delay, and do this same thing. And then for this guy, for instance, make this a 1, and then do that kind of deal, and it'll actually take however long you set this timer to zoom out. It's kind of cool. You can really piggyback on a lot of these functions, and what's really cool about this is that we can transfer, like I could literally click, drag, and take all this, copy it, and put it inside the instant fire, and just replace any projectile fire calls with that instant fire, and it'll work the exact same. That's the really cool part about this, is that this code is completely transferable between the two fire modes. So you can actually define a gun, test them both out, and do like alt fire and, you know, primary, or the alt and primary fire as 2 different types, and see which one works best, and then build your gun from that. It's so simple, and it makes things so much easier as far as testing and prototyping, because you can see what works, see what doesn't work, you know. It's really nice. Alright, and that's going to be it for today. So just to recap, we've gone over creating our first set of weapon files for a 9mm pistol, and we've modified the guns a little bit so that we have some different types of weaponry. We've done single shot, continuous fire with the fire intervals. We've done a bursting weapon, which we did here, which we can increase or decrease the bursting rate by modifying this value here. We've also done spread weapons, which we did here with the for loop. And of course we've done our zooming weapon now by using get zoomed state to define, or to see which zoom state we're in. And we also used, back in the default properties, the be zoomed fire mode for our traditional sniper creators. We went through some default properties on each of the guns, just so you guys could see some of the various things that are defined for a gun throughout the different files. And we've modified our GS game file so that way we include our weapon. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Next time, I believe we're going to go over importing our model for our pistol, getting it rigged up with sockets, and making sure it looks nice and solid on our guy, and changing the animation type to make it an actual pistol animation, so on the third person we can see what's going on. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and check us out next time.